Welcome back to another PT Postmortem podcast. I'm Swaggy, one of your hosts, and this is my main man, Doc.
Yeah, it is. We are back with PrimeTime Mortem, episode 2 this time. We've had a couple pilot episodes. We've finally got our first one out. Now we're on to this one, so we're going to make this a weekly thing, released every Friday. So, again, if you want to check it out every Friday, that's going to be the idea. As you may be able to see, we are recording this in the daytime this time around, so like at 8 o'clock at night my time, so my hair's showing a lot more here as well, so it's always a fun one.
It's always daytime for me. Shout out to my Americans.
Yes. It's the one thing that's always been a difficult thing, because it's like, it has also made, like, when you run the show so consistently, you kind of know what it is Eastern time as well. So I've gotten used to, like, going 8 p.m. UK time is 3 p.m. Eastern, and you just work it out from there. It's a fun time when you work off time zones.
All right. I think we should get right into this one, because
okay.
we had a crazy Clash of Champions card last Saturday.
Yes, we did.
And funny enough, the first fight of the card was Driz versus Fonty, and that's the first thing I have here on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Driz dog walked Fonty. It was a beating that nobody wants to be on the bad side of. Fonty used Conor McGregor, the old alter ego Conor McGregor, man bun Conor, and got dog walked by Conor McGregor. I mean, by Max Holloway. And as a Max Holloway user, it was amazing to see. I loved it. He was using the spinnies, he was using the jab straights, he was using that speed, and he was absolutely dog walking Fonty. And we'll get into it later, but I kind of have Driz as a sleeper into the GP. However, we'll get into that later, because I also want to talk about Conti, who is another low-key...
It's Kante, by the way. Can I just make that correction?
I'm sorry, Conti. Anyway, he's a low-key Xbox player, where he was a former champion, and in a time where Fatinator and Trixie were kind of ceased to exist. And then he kind of disappeared for a little bit, but I feel like we're gonna see the second coming of Canty. And that's because he had such a good performance against Deaglefly on Saturday that I don't think you can't really say that he's not a contender right now. I feel like he's going to really make a push this season coming forward.
In fairness to Deaglefly, he was originally booked against CV. Yes. And Kante and CV have very uniquely different styles. CV is a much more of a play off the back foot and then put pressure when he finds an opportunity. Kante's the type of person who's going to be in your face non-stop. And if you don't want him there, you have to put him down. And if you don't put him down in enough time, you're just going to get killed. And although Kante's B-Fat, he plays like B3 in a lot of circumstances. And you can... And so when you're fighting Kante, that's got to be taken into account. And so I think with Deagle, I mean, Kante put on a fantastic performance, so that's not dissing that part of things. But you also got to take into account that Deaglefly did have a massive change in type of opponents. And so that's going to be probably what plays into that factor as well. We get to see Deaglefly compete later down there. It'll be really interesting how he adjusts, especially as the overall striking game right now is built towards pressure fighting. And as the updates happening, that's going to change. That's going to completely change how the game's going to play, especially if they do some stamina, for instance. Because currently, you can go 3 to 5 rounds with nearly full stamina if you just strike. Like, actually, it's more taxing to grapple than it is to genuinely strike right now, I seem to find.
Yes, no, that's absolutely true. And either way, Conti had a great performance. You can't take away from that. And I'm excited to see Deaglefly fight later down the stretch too, because he's one of the only guys to be on both divisions right now. One of the only sweat lords to get the game on both consoles.
I don't believe he does. I think he's only on Xbox, which is the reason for.
Well, he was supposed to fight. I thought
he was
I
meant to
thought that
fight
was because
CV, but then
Jinja backed out, and then Smudger's opponent backed out. So they
the
moved Deagle Fly to fight.
so
That's what I thought.
Deagle Fly was originally meant to fight CV, but I
Mhm.
think during the course of the event somehow some wires got crossed. And turns out Deagle Fly only has it on Xbox.
Oh, okay.
The person who I do know has it on both consoles is Mr. B3 Blackout,
No. Okay.
which leads us brilliantly on to his fight against Josh Ray.
Yeah. Yeah, that fight was crazy because it was at welterweight, so
There's a
we all knew.
reason. There's a reason it got a Fight of the Night award, and it's currently posted on our YouTube as well.
Amazing fight. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. We knew the Nick Diaz pick was coming
Oh god,
from
110%.
Blackout, and nobody knew who Josh Ray was. Nobody knew who this guy was.
Josh Ray came. So Josh Ray was around season 1, season 2. If we link in Styles and Payne's fight, I actually think whilst we're on the topic, so Styles came back. He competed. Styles was our first PS champion, as I described in our last episode. Dominant champ, emotional, abusive on the ground. Josh Ray finished him and got that win. Got the belt, ran on. I think he only did it for like a couple of title defenses, and then he kind of disappeared out of the blue. And now he's back in the early days of UFC 4. He's put on an impressive performance. I know he's fought in Cyrus in ranked a few times, and every time Cyrus has seen him in chat, I think he's pretty appreciative of that skill. And Josh Ray seems to be. It seems like Josh Ray is going to be an issue as the PS scene develops, especially coming to the early days of UFC 5.
Yeah, Josh Ray is going to be a fucking problem because listen, Blackout is the best Nick Diaz in the world. I take notes when this man
Yeah, I
uses
can
Nick
agree with that.
Diaz. And he had Josh Ray in really bad situations in the first round. We all thought it was going to get finished. I thought multiple times it was going to get finished within the first round because Josh Ray was he was getting backed up towards the cage. Blackout was getting those block breaking combos in, and he was really bringing it to Josh. But then the second round, we saw a complete change of pace. Josh was like, "Your stamp's gone. I'm gonna bully you," and he fucking got the finish. It was a 2-round fight. That was fight of the night. It was amazing, spectacular, and not even taking away from Blackout because Blackout did what he always does. They're both dogs.
Oh
They
god,
they're
yeah, no.
they're both dogs, and I probably called them both dogs at least 100 times during this fight.
Yeah.
And because listen, you blackout blackout is crazy with Nick Diaz. You don't
Blackout
expect
is
it
a
either.
nutcase, yeah.
And in this game, Nick Diaz is so much better on the feet. I think his striking feels much better compared to UFC 4.
I mean, overall, in terms of animations, as much as I have issues with the striking game in general, how fighters feel is so much better, especially like hooks as well. The new
Yeah,
hook
nah.
animations are brilliant.
Which makes Nick Diaz a little easier to
Mm-hmm.
use, and Blackout is brilliant with Nick Diaz, but Josh just came back and made an epic comeback, and I'm excited to see the both of them fight in the future, which the PS Grand Prix is in 2 Saturdays, so not this
Yeah.
week.
So, I mean, so the Xbox GP is this Saturday on the 11th. Which means it'll be out tomorrow for you guys. So that'll be live tomorrow, 8 p.m. GMT, 3:30 Eastern, typical times, Twitch and YouTube. And then on the 18th, I believe, if I've got my dates correct, yeah, it'll be the 18th. Will be the PlayStation Grand Prix that will have the likes of CV, Josh Ray, I think's also in it, if I'm not mistaken, but that's all to still be confirmed. so we won't get too in depth for that. There's a list of people, top 16 mixed with former champs, same way we've done it for the Xbox side this week. That's got a fantastic roster, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Mm.
But yeah, across the board, I mean, you got two GPs stacked to the brim with really good names, looking to make themselves known very early days of the season. If they get within if they make it to the third round, go 2-1, they're pretty much guaranteed a live spot, if I'm not mistaken, on a card. I mean, but it's the same way with the uneds. I mean, if you go 1-0, 2-0, if you go 2-0 on the uneds for the next 2 weeks, whilst running these GPs, you have basically got yourself the guaranteed live spot on the first card back, which will be PT 112. So if you want to make yourselves known, if you want that spot, get winning, get those fights in, and put on a performance there, I suppose would be the answer.
Yeah, man, get in there, land those jab straights, that head movement, sub your opponents, do what you got to do. And, talking about the GPs gets me excited moving forward. Wants me to bring up V Pains because your boy's a grappler on UFC 4, but in UFC 5,
He
he
has
came
those
out with a vicious
hands.
knockout. Came out with a vicious
Yeah.
knockout. It was gorgeous. He was fighting
Styles.
Yes, he was fighting Styles, who is also another known grappler.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, they both stood and they both had their moments. V Pain's coming out on top and getting the knockout, which kind of leads me to think that he'll be more willing to strike this time around than wanting
Mm-hmm.
to grapple. I feel like he was always willing to strike, but this seems like a different V Pains.
Yeah,
Like
no, I mean, you see it a lot with people. Is like you eventually. I myself have experienced it. You get bored of the grappling sometimes. You play it so much, it's repetitive. You rather test yourself in other areas. What's going to be interesting to see, at least in V Pain side of things, will be how long how long's that striking going to last per se. Like, is it going to be until he takes a loss? Is it until he takes a bad rock on the feet? How do you adjust them? Because you can fall in love with your hands, but then you run into issues. For example, an IRO example would be Usman Edwards. Usman fell in his love so much that he ended up getting caught. So it's going to be interesting to see how Payne adjusts to that. But I feel like overall, he's fairly experienced as a fighter within the esports community. So I'd imagine for him, it's just going to be the case of making adjustments depending on the fighter. You wouldn't like Styles, as you mentioned. He's a really good grappler. He's very effective there. So staying on the feet was probably more of an IQ move more than a stylistic move, I would argue in some aspects. But that's going to be all dependent on seeing how we see him go forward as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm curious to see how V Pain stacks up against known strikers like CV and Smudger, who moving on had also the second fight of the night from the
Yeah,
Clash
no,
of Champions
it's the
card.
Clash of Champions. It was a fairly small card compared to what we usually run, and we still end up with 2 fight of the night. That's how good
I
the
mean,
card was.
it was impossible not to because Blackout and Josh was obviously going to be fight of the night. And then CV versus Smudger put on a show like they always do. And
It's the reason why there's a PS rivalry.
yes, and CV came out on top. I did reach out to him to get a statement, and he didn't respond to my Discord DM. But he was in my Twitch chat yesterday talking to me, and I kept telling him, "Yo, CV, respond to my DM. We're doing the podcast tomorrow," and he's acting dumb. You know what, CV? Fuck you. I hope Smudger destroys you in the next one.
A bit of bad blood there. Jesus. Bit
But
of bad
however,
blood being spilled.
CV had a gorgeous finish. All love the CV.
Those
And
two
nothing
put on a
taken away from
bloody war.
Smudger. Smudger fought gorgeous too, because Smudger was arguably winning that entire fight.
It was Izzy versus Anderson Silva, 5-star,
Yeah.
which is an interesting matchup for saying you've got a pick like Pereira that you could go to, especially in UFC 5. Pereira seems to be leaning towards the meta within that middleweight division. There's there's grapplers within that division, but there's nobody particularly good, in my opinion, in terms of grapplers. You got Martin Vettori, doesn't really have the sub game. You got Paul Craig, but he doesn't really have the takedown game, and so you're kind of left with these in between strikers, and Pereira and Izzy really do dominate that landscape. So seeing him go someone like Anderson Silva for CV, I suppose it isn't that shocking, only for the fact we've seen CV in UFC 4 use the Anderson Silva type pick, but especially coming into UFC 5, it's interesting to see how that meta is still kind of being carried over, I suppose.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, Doc. I'll tell you exactly why he made the Anderson Silva pick. And that's because of the defensive buffs that CV honestly believes were made in this game. CV honestly believes that the defensive buffs made in UFC 5 are revolutionary to the MMA games. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't have a conversation with him about the defensive buffs. However, that's why he picked Anderson Silva, and he kind of showed that the defensive buffs weren't there because Smudger was winning the entire fight, but he did come back and win. So
yeah,
GG's.
I mean, both of our fight of night seems to end up with a comeback wins. And I suppose that if you want to have a war, get beaten the fuck up, and then come back and knock them out, like that seems to be the case. You're gonna win right the night so far. Both, all round.
I mean, Stevie had his. It wasn't like a domination like the first round of the Blackout Josh fight. It was like CV had his moments in every round, and the first or second round was very close. And the judges had given it to CV, but everybody in the booth had Smudger. And then Smudger ends up going to lose anyway. So the judges don't really matter at that point. But yeah, no, both guys put on an absolute show, and I'm excited to see what they do and who they're even matched up with in the PS Grand Prix.
Yeah, no, that's going to be an interesting one to see. I mean, yeah, there's not much we can really say about the PSGP just yet. We're still getting all fighters confirmed, are all sorted. The logistics are still being sorted. The Xbox one was a wild time to get sorted in itself. I mean, should we talk about the GPO now? I suppose we should, since we're on it.
Before we do, we need to bring up Fatinator versus Trixie.
Oh,
before we do.
You know what? Yes, we should. Yes, 110% we should. Definitely.
Because not only is that it was a great fight, but it was the main event, and Fatinator 1 told us how he was going to do it. He said, I will knock Trixie out. He was very confident about this. He DM'd me the night before saying, I have a chip on my shoulder, and when I win tomorrow, the rivalry's over, which just isn't facts because the odds of them running into each other at the GP are very high. So the rivalry is not over.
It is, but it isn't at the same time. It depends.
We'll talk about
you
that.
see the GP going. Yeah,
absolutely. And then so he messaged me right after the fight, and he said, "Remember what I said, bro?" I said, "Great fight. You know, obviously, do you want to make a statement?" And here's what he said. I will walk through the competition like before. I will be even more feared on this game than 4. A win against Trixie for my first fight in PT on 5 really sums up how my season's going to go. Don't be surprised if I go unbeaten once again, probably breaking my own record in the process. So Fat thinks he's breaking his own record. Fat thinks he's breaking his record. He's breaking Trixie's record.
Record that he needs to. I mean, in for a penny, in for a pound here. I don't like. I'm going to go a bit non-neutral here, I suppose, but I mean it in good jest. It's not his record he needs to beat. It's Trixie's record.
It is Trixie's record, and he just kind of doesn't. He doesn't want to hear that.
He thinks
he has the record. He doesn't want to hear that as Trixie's record. And I think, like I said before, I really don't think they like each other. I really don't. I didn't even want to reach out to Trixie for a response because I didn't want him to stab me. So I was just like, I just let that soak up. Trixie is lovely, but it's, when Fatinator comes up, he gets a little not lovely. So I didn't want to do that to him. However,
it is genuinely a very, very contested rivalry. Both of them have it does sometimes feel like both of them have got some bad blood in between each other, and I think that makes it all the better for it, because you have Fadinator, who's been this constantly domineering force. It's been a nightmare for the entire Xbox division, apart from Trixie, this one singular person who's consistently been an issue. But it's also the same way the other way. Fadinator has consistently been an issue for Trixie, and although their record does seem like it's jointed one side, it's now 7-4, I think.
7-4.
7-4 in favour of Trixie. Fadinator, the more time has gone on, the more and more domineering he's looked, and the more difficulty I think Trixie's had to fight him. So, as much as Trixie still holds these records and such coming into the new game, I could 110% see Fad breaking his records, putting new records up, and then Trixie coming out of nowhere and doing the exact same. And you end up with, at least on the Xbox division, having these two massive names just constantly running into each other by the end of the year.
Well, as we say that, we should jump now into the Xbox Grand Prix, which you say end of the year, but they're both. I have the matchups right here. I had them for Kush Corner written down. So on the top of the bracket, you got Trixie versus Fonty, and on the bottom of the bracket, you got Conti versus Fad. If they win all their fights, they end up facing each other in the finals.
Yeah, that is. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. I mean, Trixie's got to fight EK Fonty first, and that fight probably favours Trixie purely based on experience. However, Fonty, when he had the championship belt, when he was champ, he looked unstoppable. He had fights against Naznim and Winter, and they thought they had the game plan to beat him, and then they didn't. And Fonty adjusted, and he used it. He played off that back foot, which, I mean, as much as you want to say defensive buffs in quotations, playing on the back foot is more viable, I would argue, in this game. You do have issues with pressure, but if you can get your offense going on the back foot, you're going to be golden, in my opinion. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how Fonty does, see how that fight plays out itself. That's going to be 5 rounds. Championships on the line, of course, I believe. So, yeah, it's going to be a wild one.
Well, Fonty got dog walked last week. And Trixie didn't win either. But Trixie didn't get dog walked. Trixie didn't get his ass whooped. That was an ass whooping, dog.
I mean, if you ask Fad, maybe it's a different story, but yeah.
But Trixie was fighting Fad. So yeah. That's an excuse right there. Fonty versus Driz was supposed to be a pretty even matchup.
Yes, but I would also argue Driz is FSK. Driz plays with Fadinator, and as you mentioned, Fad is an absolute killer. So
Fatty the Baddie, yeah.
Yeah, he's named Faddy the Baddie for a reason. If Driz is playing with guys who are like that caliber, you would also expect it. Don't get me wrong, Fonty's not bad at all, and as I mentioned, but I've also said, he plays off that back foot, and styles makes matchups. So you can also see how it's going to be a lot different, because Fonty's played into Driz's style of wanting to be on the front foot, putting that pressure on, similar to how Kante does it. While Trixie, on the other hand, is more willing to play the centre of the octagon instead of pushing forward non-stop. Okay,
you've persuaded me. I still think Trixie gets past the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And then going down to Fad's fight against Conti. He's so Fad is Fadinator. You know, Fatty the Baddie. Fad's got that dog in him. You know what I'm saying? However, you can't underestimate Canty coming into this, because it looks like a flame got lit under his ass coming into UFC 5. Because he had a crazy performance against Deagle Fly. I mean, you obviously have to take what Doc said earlier into consideration. However, Canty still showed that he can do it. He's got that dog somewhere in him, and who knows? It could be the biggest upset in the GP in the first round, we could see it. However, with that being said, I do think Fatinator walks through and wins at least the first round going forward. And I don't know if they'll match up in the finals, because going into it, their second and third round matchups could get a little tough, because there are some other killers in there like Easy Work and Jinja, who are both on my sleeper picks.
I mean, going into the second round for Trixie, it's either Ginger or Elitist, and then Kante versus Fadinator. The winner of that's going to be fighting Winter or the wild card pick, which of Dezinho. So, yeah, that's all killers. I mean, across the board, every time I've seen Winter actually compete recently, he's been a nightmare for people. So, that's definitely a possibility. I mean, even when I look at the Ginger fight versus Elitist, both of them are really good strikers. That's going to be probably a striking brawl. Depends what type of Ginger shows up, I'll be honest, because Ginger can go one or two ways typically, from my experience. I don't think you mind me saying this. He can either show up really calm and collected, or he can get frustrated really easily. And so it depends on how his opponent fights, and that's again, it's another point about styles makes fights. Is Ginger going to cope with that style, or is he going to get frustrated? Is he going to have difficulty there?
Ginger gets in his own head a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he doubts himself. That's why Ginger is a sleeper pick for me, because when Ginger doesn't doubt himself and he just goes in there and has fun, he really comes out and whoops people's asses. Kind of like we saw when he had that little, he had a little PlayStation title run, and
I know,
it was impressive. it was impressive, and that's how he earned my respect. I always thought he was a little dickhead. However,
leave Ginger alone. He's lovely.
No, just an asshole. Come on. But he got that dog in him, and Elitist does too. However, Elitist for me comes off on the little less confident side, as to where I think it will be a dog walking for Ginger going into it, and Ginger could run into Trixie, and that's where we'll see what Ginger's showing up. If the oh fuck, I'm shitting myself because I'm fighting Trixie is showing up, or the oh shit, let's get in there and have a good time. And if the let's get in there and have a good time Ginger shows up, we either get a classic, he either loses and we get a classic like in the PS Grand Prix against Robin, or he surprises everybody and gets a win.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that assessment, but to not dismiss Elite completely, because 110 we shouldn't be, and I don't think we're not trying to, but just make it even more clear. So, Elitist is that type of person that I could definitely see just putting out a weird upset. As you do words, not my forte it seems. Ginger's that sleeper pick, but I think so's Elitist. That entire matchup's very sleeper picky. I could see it turning into one of the fight of the night contenders, a KO performance of someone. Because it's going to be, it's just asking for some type of chaos because of how underrated it seems. But I suppose that's also come from my experience of watching, being so long in the scene, watching all the PE fights, is a lot of the time it's the cards you don't expect that turn out to be absolutely killer. Like, you book a card and you go, that's got a lot of good fights on it, but I don't know how well it is compared to previous cards we've done. And then suddenly you put it on and it's like, oh my god, every single fight of this is a barn burn. It's ridiculous. It's absolute chaos, and it just outperforms anything that you've seen before. And I think that's the type of fight that's leaning towards. I mean, as I look down further down this list, you've got Easy Work. He's a really big name. I'm really interested how he does blackouts on here again. He managed to make the top 16. Concept, he's making his return under the NV camp, same camp as Ginge. So that's going to be
a lot of NV guys.
Yeah,
a lot of NV guys on
NV,
this.
Ginge, Chris, and Concept.
However,
likewise,
Concept
you've got BFAP and FSA though, and you've got 2 EK.
Concept is going against Driz, and Driz is, unlike Ginger and Easy Work, they're sleepers for me. But I more feel like because of
Easy
how
Work's a
many
sleeper?
times I got Easy Work as a sleeper because realistically, the two favorites on this list are Fatinator or Trixie. The two like big favorites to win the
The
entire
two,
things are
oh yeah,
Trixie or Fatinator.
yeah, no, the two favourites are undoubtedly Trixie versus Fad. I wouldn't personally call Easy Work a sleeper.
I definitely don't have him as a favorite. Maybe a
Would you
third.
call like because if you're calling Easy
He's definitely a
Work
bit of he's definitely a bit of an underdog
against, I mean, in his
against
first matchup, he's the favourite. His
in
first
his
match, I mean, his first
his.
matchup is against Breezy Tricks, and then
Mhm.
he's either fighting Envy Chris or FSK Bossman in the second round, in which I would say either matchup is about a 50-50 to possibly favouring him, to be honest, in my view. But again, I would definitely probably lean 50-50. It can go either way for that one. But Breezy Tricks has got now that man is it is the dark horse. If he gets past the first round, it could completely upset the entire thing. I think would be the way to what phrase it. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's made it into the top 16. He's looked impressive, but he's an unknown. I think it's a simple way too. He's not he's not part of the
Yeah,
camp. Like, he's the only person not part of the camp. Dezino is now part of FSK. He joined up with them. He's also hanged around a lot with the likes of Driz and Fadnate, so he's fairly well experienced. Yeah, I believe, and every other person is either EK, NV, FSK, or BFAT. Breeze Tricks
not
is
part
the
of a camp, you say.
yeah, I don't believe he's part of the camp.
You're gonna have to get
Swaggy.
some recruiters on that. However, yeah. So I see what Doc's saying now.
hmm
I still think because of how dominant Trixie and Fatinator are, they own these Xbox GPs. Usually, the winner is one of them. If we go back and
yeah.
look at all of the Xbox GPs, it's
Actually,
one of them.
I'm trying to think. Has anybody else actually won the GPs apart from those two? I don't think that. Now that I think about it,
Exactly.
I don't think that has been.
Exactly. So this would be that's why I
I
have him
know
as
the
a sleeper
time
pick.
Trixie lost in the second round to Keza, but then Fad won that one. Fad wasn't in one of the GPs because it ended up being Trixie versus Swab Jamie for the end of it, and Trixie won.
Even Suave Jamie comes in and fucking Trixie still wins the GP, is what I'm saying, Doc. Is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, now I think about it, I think it's only been Trixie or Fat. Yeah,
The
no.
Xbox GPs are theirs. They own it. That's why I got Easy working as a sleeper. Because on a normal card, I have it as a very even matchup if
By
Easy
that
Work runs
logic,
into either
then,
of them.
I mean, but okay, so by that logic, then everybody is a sleep pick apart from Trixie and Fad.
Yeah, and then you got your sleepers, and then you got your absolutely. Oh, he's not winning it. Like I would say that about Tricks. If he does get past the first round, that would shake shit up.
I'm looking forward to seeing how Trixie does. Breezy Tricks, not Trixie. Of course.
Or somebody like Driz, for me, kind of has a chance as well.
Mhm.
Against Concept is a very tough first round. If he gets past it, he
Oh,
has a very tough second round.
I just realised the
But
other person who's in the camp is Viper TKO. He's fighting Blackout.
yes,
Which I mean is again, it's another mental fight. Imagine
hmm,
like not. It's like imagine being like the ultra dark horse, and then you're being shoved into the cage against one of the best pressure strikers on the games right now, and
yeah,
that's definitely it's a make or
violation.
break situation. Those two fights, Breezrix versus BPAP Easy Works, Blackout versus Viper TKO. Um, both of them I'm looking really forward to seeing how both of them perform because they're dark horses. They're not expected to win within the general consensus of it all. So I think they're going to really pull their socks up and very good performance, maybe performance of the night. We'll find out on Saturday, I suppose, will be the answer there. I'm looking really forward to it. The entire thing, though, for saying it's the first card, for saying we've had no official card yet, we haven't had PT 112, that'll be happening in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks time. It's a really stacked card already.
Yeah. And I actually have a question about this GP. No disrespect. Who is Diesenho?
What does Inyo?
Yeah, Diesenho.
I had he had an 8. I mean, I think he has close to about 70% win rate on his overall record. He competed last season, last 3 seasons, not this last one though. He went at about 70% win rate. He's friends with he came into the community with the likes of Driz, so he's very well experienced fighting people like that, like Fadinator.
Oh,
okay. So, as I said earlier, he's also joined up with FSK recently, so you can definitely start to gain a picture of what you're wanting to expect.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So him versus Winter has just got even more interesting for you then.
Yeah, it did because Winter, like you said, has been extraordinary on UFC 5. Anytime I'm flicking anywhere that Winter's fighting, he's dog walking somebody. Yeah. And I've seen it on multiple platforms. And now but I haven't seen him face an SFK member yet. The last time I did was against Fadinator. That's the last time I doubted Fadinator.
Yeah, I feel like out of all the people to see someone against Fadinator's likely the worst, only because of the only time Fadinator's fully look competitive against someone he's tricksy.
Nah, Doc, but I'm telling you, he came in the first minute, he tried everything he could.
Yeah.
He tried everything he could, and Fadinator was just moving. He was just simply moving. And then Fadinator kind of got, it seemed like to the general public that Fadinator got bored. So he just took him down, put a sub in, finished the fight.
I mean,
and ever
Winter's
since that,
a lot better than that, though. And
ever since then, though, on UFC 4, Winter was a different person. It looked like he was dead inside. Coming into UFC 5, it looks like he's awakened again. However, I'm worried to see him against the SFK member so early. And if he does get past him, and Fat gets past his first round, that opens up a lot of PTSD for this guy. I don't know if he's fought Fadinator since that last time.
Well, he's had a long time to think about the different changes he can make to his game. It's on a brand new game engine to begin with, new subsystem. There's a lot of different things that could happen. The striking system, although looks the same, does feel and act completely different, in my opinion. And so, I think that's going to be another main stage, and that's what you got to remember about a lot of these fights that you see coming in from UFC 4, is that although they're the same fighters, that there's a distinction. There's a certain amount of time that has passed. There's learning a new game. There's all those different contributing factors.
Wait a fucking minute. Where the fuck is Frosty?
I don't know.
Where's Frosty? I like Frosty.
I think he's had to go back to the North Pole.
Damn. Frosty is cold. That's crazy.
I have seen him about. I do know he's competed. I don't think he was in the top 16 and he hasn't been a former champion, though.
Man! It's alright, Frosty. I believe in you, big guy.
I don't believe he signed up either, so, yeah, we may have to follow up on that. We'll have a look, see if he returns.
Don't worry, Frosty. I didn't forget about you.
I know, if we can name drop people, I know Ali ADB Danny's looking really forward to competing again, looking for that type of stuff. I mean, a lot of fighters in general, just as we were running the Clash of Cards, I know a lot of fighters were looking to wondering when all the cards are back, and now we've got the uneds running along this. We've made a couple adjustments, so
Yeah.
And we're back. Apologies. Yeah, laptop thing we're recording on decided to crash. It blue screened. We were on a talking point. We've just loaded back up. We've just sorted everything, so we're gonna move on. I mean, I believe we were talking about the unairs again. Just generally get the fights in, get the screenshots, get some recordings done because we now have that as an offer. Yeah, I mean, you can do that. That means we can use it as content. We can promo you as especially if you're up and comers. That just works better all around for everybody involved. With that being said, swag bag and the scum bucket of the week, I believe, is our next thing you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Swag bag. I gotta get a bag. I gotta get like a party favorite bag. Swag bag's gonna be go to my homie Drizz. Shout out Drizz. You used Max Holloway. And I love Max Holloway, and that's a ticket to swag bag right there. And you had an incredible performance. You dog walked Fonty, who was a former champion. You're also a former champion in yourself. Good luck in the Xbox GP. I'm very excited to see you compete again. And getting into it, scum bucket of the week. Nobody cheesed. It was disappointing for me. Nobody got really scummy in there like I'm used to. And we had a lot of scumbags competing, and I was surprised because nobody got really scummy. So my scum bucket of the week goes to
such a small bucket.
One of the voices of PrimeTime, J Dime, because he insulted me in the booth, and I'm not a mean guy, so I was throwing fun little ribs. I don't know if you caught them. I was talking about the judges a lot. And then I would call the J Dime because J Dime did indeed debut on PrimeTime, lose to the judges, and get immediately back in the booth after retiring from competition. So it was fair. It was fair to throw those ribs in. But yeah, that's
so
my.
What we learned today is that if you want to impress Swaggy, use Holloway. If you want to get on his bad list, insult him in the commentary booth. And if you want to get a fight of the night performance, get beat up for 2 rounds and then come back and knock him out.
Yes. You want fight of the night.
That's seemingly what we've learned today.
You want fight of the night, get your ass kicked, then come back. Yeah, literally. Literally. All right, yeah.
So I think with all that being said and all that being done and all the randomness that we've talked about, including the technical difficulties we decide to have just as we're trying to close the show out, I have one last question for you, Swag. Trixie or Fad?
I like them both, but with I don't want to count any of their bad sides. However, with the recent events and the way Fatinator's been talking,
you
may
nervous.
catch me. I'm nervous talking about this. You might catch me in a Fatinator t-shirt real soon, cause I'm starting to think again. He's getting to that scary spot where you need to burglarize this man's home while he's mid-game to fucking beat him. And so he's starting to get to that point again. So I'm thinking,
oh my God.
Listen. I will be happy and surprised if Fatinator doesn't win the GP. I'll be happy no matter what happens. But odds are Fatinator is gonna walk out of this GP the UFC 5 PT champion of the Xbox division.
It's a possibility. It's a big possibility. It's not guaranteed. You got Trixie, you got every other 15 other people, including Trixie, to get through. But yeah, it's a very big possibility. It's going to be an interesting time, and you're going to find out how that story ends. Well, catch it tomorrow night. I'll be live at 8:30 GMT, 3:30 Eastern, PrimeTime MMA on Twitch, and currently on the platform you're watching right now. It's going to be a hell of a card. It's probably going to be about 3 hours long, knowing how GPs go. But, I mean, all 3 hours are going to be action-packed, comedy-filled, and utterly filled with virtual violence of the highest degrees.
That's what we love.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a killer time. And I think with that being said, we're going to leave you in peace. You will cool down, go watch the Fight of the Night videos. Go check out Swaggy on Twitch. I mean, we also got the Kush Corners on our TikTok. Anything else you would like to shout out?
Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube if you don't already.
Yeah.
Smash that subscribe button. Get in there, leave a comment. Tell us things you want us to talk about on the episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show, message me on Discord. I'm going to be rearranging the guest situations and things like that, and moving forward once we start doing guests in a couple episodes. And also, if you're a fighter and you want to make a statement, message me on Discord, man. Let me know. I'm also live on Twitch every single day, so you could always come in there and talk. Don't be like CV though. Don't come in and talk and not message me back on Discord. Don't do that. Respond first. But yeah, I think that's it for this was the Postmortem podcast, baby.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, Postmortem podcast with the Doctor and Dr. Swaggy Kush, I suppose is the way we say it. Yeah. Yeah, that's been us. Have a good night. Adios.